What is going on? Welcome in. Woodward Bets going live here, presented by our friends over at Better Rate Mortgage. Make sure you check them out. Beer and Scott in the house here on a Tuesday. We always start with the whiteboard, my man. So coming off a crazy super wild card weekend, they called it. First time ever. We had 3 days of playoff wild card action. And last night, the Rams obviously took care of business 34-11. So you're sending a congrats out. I talked about it the other day with Beastie. There seemed to be half the Detroit crowd was cheering for Stafford. The other half either hates him or we're thinking we want the better draft pick. We want to see the Rams eliminated. But Arizona looked terrible last night, Scott. So congrats to Stafford. Congrats to the Rams. Congrats to their fans. And how are we doing, my man, here on this Tuesday night?
Man, I cannot complain. Yeah, that was a one hell of a weekend. Obviously, there in the NFL, I know we talked a little bit about it with Beastie. I mean, we had everything from dicks on the field to all kinds of crazy action, and Cowboys don't know how to spike a ball and all kinds of craziness. But yeah, last night's game, I mean, Kyler Murray, I mean, he almost looked like he was about ready to take off at halftime and go relive his baseball dreams there. I mean, he was a top 10 pick in the Major League Draft there by the A's, but man, was he just terrible. And I couldn't believe that Stafford had more rushing yards than this guy. I mean, that's Kyler Murray's game. Like, I just don't quite understand why they didn't have more design type runs for him, whatever else. But, for me, Chris, I was happy for Stafford, sure. I mean, as a fan, do I want a better draft pick? I mean, who doesn't want a better draft pick? But who's to say that the draft pick's going to work out? I mean, we see it time and time again. Let the chips fall as they may, and then we'll draft and we'll go from there. But for me, I mean, Stafford did put a lot into the city of Detroit. He's great with the city. His wife was great with the city, as we mentioned, doing things for the Woodward Sports Toys for Tots that we had here going on at Christmas time. But, it's just good for Stafford. I mean, I just didn't want to see him lose that one. Now, after this one here, I mean, now the guy's got his work cut out for him. So now he's got to go face Tom Brady and the GOAT. So looking forward to these next games coming up here. Man, we got some hell of a matchups, and I think the NFL here is going to be the place to be this weekend. Just watching these 4 games should be very, very entertaining.
Yeah, I don't think there was any big shockers this weekend. I mean, some may make the case Dallas was a little bit of a surprise, but, San Francisco is certainly a live dog. A lot of people were on San Francisco. We talked about how that spread looked a little bit too low, so I don't think they qualify as a surprise. Everything else kind of went as we thought it would. Maybe you thought New England was going to give Buffalo a little bit more of a game. Oakland or Las Vegas, I should say, they hung in there with Cincinnati. We saw Philadelphia and Pittsburgh kind of get wiped off the field as we thought. And, I thought Arizona would put up a little bit more of a fight. But, Scott, while we're on this game real quick, I want to ask you about Cliff Kingsbury. And should he be on the hot seat here? Are there concerns? And let me read you a stat here. I saw this courtesy of the Action Network, sent out a tweet earlier this morning. But it talks about how Cliff Kingsbury, how he ends the season. And we've seen the Cardinals do this. This year they lost 5 of their last 6. You go back to last season, they lost 5 of their last 7. 2019, lost 7 of their last 9. Scott, this goes back all the way through his years at Texas Tech. 2018, lost his last 5. 2017, 6 of 8, 6 of 8, 4 of 6, 4 of 6, 5 of 6 is how he's lost the last 8 years, whatever it may be. So Arizona's got to be concerned here with this. I mean, yes, he's a good coach, I think, but the job as an NFL coach is what? To get it done. You have the talent. They go out and they bring in a J.J. Watt. They bring in James Conner. Sure, they were without DeAndre Hopkins. They lose Baker during that game. I don't think that had anything to do with the result. Are you concerned here? If you're an Arizona fan, if you're an Arizona owner, is Cliff Kingsbury maybe not the right guy for this job?
I mean, you definitely got to be concerned. I mean, proof's in the pudding there. I mean, yeah, to me, I think the NFL is a game more of any other sport of chess. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Offenses come out, and until the defenses can figure them out, it's generally like we saw with the Chiefs. I mean, all of a sudden Tampa plays that Tampa 2, that deep over the top safety and shut down Mahomes and them deep passes and made Mahomes dink and dunk, and we kind of saw him struggle a little bit. And all of a sudden here, they made some adjustments. I think that's what the NFL is all about. There's too many smart coaches and too many smart guys here in the NFL. And once somebody sees something that they can get an edge on, I mean, then every NFL team's going to do it. So to me, it just seems like Kingsbury, if this is the case, he just might have a hard time adjusting. And I mean, I was thinking about it too there, like, okay, here we are at half. It was just an absolute, just pure debacle that first half for them. I kind of thought they'd come out and at least try to do something a little bit different there in the second half. And I just didn't see it there at all. I mean, Kyler Murray just looked disengaged. Like, I mean, he just looked like a deer in headlights. He didn't know what was happening, what was going on. Now, I mean, Chris, do you think it might even have anything to do? I know it was mentioned last night, some of these playoff games and a lot of stuff that went on last year, there was no fans in the stands. There was, limited fans, maybe 6,000, 7,000 in some of these stadiums. And now you walk out in these stadiums and it's so loud you can't hear. You got to have these silent counts. I mean, these guys haven't had to do that, that often here since that time. So I don't know if, something like that could have affected Kyler Murray or what. But I just expected them to just come out and play a little bit better than they did. I'm just still in shock how bad Kyler Murray looked. I can't get over how bad he was. I mean, some of them passes he's making, Chris, he's bouncing 5 yards in front of the receiver. I mean, he's rolling out, and I was just like, wow, this guy here is just, I mean, he was like Chuck Knobloch type shit. Like, he couldn't even throw the ball to first base. You know what I mean? I was like, man, this guy here is just bad.
A Chuck Knobloch reference. I love it. All the young kids are like, who the hell is Chuck Knobloch? You got to look that up. I mean, yeah, that one throw in the end zone. Like, sure, you're about to take a sack in the end zone, but he throws it up underhand. Like, what are you doing? They pick it off easy and walk in the end zone. So that's my other question. Where do we come out on Kyler Murray here? Is this something they need to be worried about? Obviously a guy that you're going to have to pay a lot of money to. Is he too small? I saw a tweet from our boys at the Woodward Heavyweights, who, if you missed that show, we're going to continue to give them plugs, was great. But, it was a picture, and I don't know if Spencer has it here or not ready. If he does, go ahead and throw it up. But Scott, it was a little tiny Kyler Murray and a big giant Aaron Donald. And, is this guy too small? We've had this argument going back to the days of Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. And for the most part, it's been put to bed where you don't need the 6'5", prototypical pocket passer. The new NFL is these guys that can move around and get mobile in the pocket. Kyler, one of the best at that, but they exposed him last night. Is he a concern if you're an Arizona fan, coach, owner?
I think the NFL, especially adding this the 18th or 17th game now, I think it's going to be tough for these quarterbacks that have the skill set like Kyler, who are more of a runner than a passer. I mean, I can't expect these guys to stay healthy. I mean, I just can't see it going through a whole NFL season like that. So I think, they are going to have to start toning a little bit of that down. And yes, I would be concerned, especially, if they're going to pay him a bunch of money. You know what, if I'm a Lions fan and we had Kyler Murray, let's say, I don't think I'd be happy if Kyler Murray was our quarterback at this point. Yeah, sure, he has some athletic ability. I just don't like his arm, Chris. I just don't think he just doesn't seem to make some of these tough throws that we see. I mean, I think a lot of it now too, especially with, these Manning casts and stuff that we're seeing on ESPN, which, I thoroughly enjoy to watch. I actually watch that one more than the regular game. And by the way, The Rock was god awful on that last night. But for me, you hear these guys talking about, he missed this read or he missed that read. He had this opportunity right here. He waited too long. I mean, you start to hear these professionals who have done it before and been successful, even the Dan Orlovskis, saying how, this was an opportunity. He missed it. He had to the ball had to be out already, and he thought too much. And like the one where it looked like the guy was wide open, and boom, it could have been a touchdown, and the safety comes over and picks the ball off. I mean, yeah, Kyler, you got to see it. It's got to be out. Like you can't think about it. You can't do some of the things that he did. And I think we were seeing some of that here last night, where there's that picture there. I mean, yeah, I mean that basically is it right there. Aaron Donald. I mean, he's a man child. That dude, I mean, I saw him wrestling with a couple of them guys, and I'm like, man, you guys are ballsy, man. I would not want to piss that dude off and then have to line up across him the next play. Hell no. I'd call him Mr. Donald, and I am sorry.
Yeah, and you got Von Miller you're dealing with as well. Let's not forget. You got Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. So I think the Rams are very much alive in this game. Obviously a tough test going to Tampa Bay, who rolled Philadelphia, but we're going to look at some of these matchups, see if there's any early spreads, totals we want to attack here in these 4 games. Obviously, tomorrow on the show, we'll give our analysis of these games, kind of our first look into the fantasy plays, into some more of the bets, totals, and props. But we wanted to take a look at an early look at these games, Scott. So let's do just that right now. We start with the first game, Cincinnati, Tennessee. Not a ton of movement so far. We have the Titans 3.5-point favorites here. The total started at 47.5. We're down to 47 here. So again, we'll get more in depth on these tomorrow. So if you're looking for some early analysis on these games, make sure you join the show tomorrow night at 6. But Scott, any early thoughts on this one? I want to think a lot of people are going to go to Cincinnati here, especially with the hook after what we saw. They're kind of the public darling right now, that exciting offense, younger players. Everybody's talking about Cincinnati, a Tennessee, a team that, kind of cruised through and I think was a surprising number 1 seed in the AFC. So I want to look here at what the early betting is, but without even looking, I'm going to think Cincinnati's probably going to be pretty popular here. So your initial thoughts on this one, anything you want to attack on this early line?
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow and Chase are the new darlings here, especially, down there in Cincinnati, and rightfully so. I mean, as I said, I took the L on Burrow. I thought, he was a beneficiary of having such a great offense around him and all these skill players at LSU. But, I mean, I like his swagger, man. I mean, you talk about being a Lions fan. If we could get a guy like Joe Burrow, I mean, that's an instant way to turn around your franchise. But I mean, this game here is interesting. You got to, obviously the Titans are going to want to play safe type football, and we'll see if we get Derrick Henry this week. Sounds like he may try to give it a go from what I'm understanding. Thought maybe last week he'd get in there, but sounds like he may be willing to give it a rip this week. So I think this one here is interesting to me. I think that hook at Tennessee minus 3.5 is going to pull a lot of people towards Cincinnati. But I think as this game gets closer, you might actually see this line drop a little bit. I think it'll probably get to 3. I just think you're going to get a lot of people betting on Cincinnati. From what I'm seeing now, it looks like the money is pretty even coming in at this point, pretty early. But for me, I mean, I think this game here is, you mention all the time, Chris, like you got to earn your stripes. No pun intended for the Bengals. I think this is a time here where they got their first win. Now they're starting to get into deeper waters here. And I don't know if that defense is quite good enough to stop these Titans.
Yeah, Cincinnati's had a pretty good run here against the Titans. Obviously, different regimes, different guys, different coaches, but 7-3 against the number in their last 10 against Tennessee. So you're right. Betting looks about split as you'd expect early in the week. Sometimes you do get a definitive answer here. These two teams were very good against the spread. Cincinnati now 11-7. Tennessee was 10-7. They both tended to play more of an under type pace here. So, maybe the under is the way to go in this one. Even that, Scott, it feels tough knowing Cincinnati's going to put points on the board. Tennessee's defense improved as the season went on, but it certainly is not the strength of their team. Cincinnati's defense on the other end, maybe middle of the pack at best. So under, it seems like it's in play with these two teams. But then again, I think we should see some scoring here. So no strong leans for me is what I'm trying to get at here early on this game. I think the spread's a little lower than I thought it would be. Total about right where I thought it would be here in the upper 40s. So let's move to the next game. So that one kicks off Saturday at 4:30. Of course, we'll be on with our show Saturday morning, breaking these two games down top to bottom, and then back at it Sunday morning with the Sunday games. But Scott, my Packers in action next. We know they were the number one seed in the NFC. They get San Francisco here, traveling to Lambeau. Now, early word, it's supposed to be pretty cold. I'll look up some temperatures here and get the updated numbers. But as far as spread goes, it opened at 5, up to 5.5 here. The total's kind of settled in at 47.5. So, again, I would expect San Francisco, the what have you done for me lately? That's going to be the public kind of leaning on the 49ers here, expecting a close game. I'm kind of doing the same right now, Scott. I think the 5.5 is in play with the Niners.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I just think, the Niners have been playing such good football here lately, especially that defense. I mean, that defensive line's just been getting after it. I think the Packers here, they're going to have to block up front for Aaron Rodgers for them to have a chance. But if they do give Aaron Rodgers any kind of time here, I think San Francisco could struggle trying to keep Devontae Adams in check. I think here, you're starting to see at this time of the year, Chris, if you're not a balanced team, it's just easy to expose you. So for me, these teams that can run and can pass and can do both, these are the teams that are going to keep continuing on. You can't be a one-dimensional team and just say, hey, you're going to beat us and we're going to beat you the way we normally play, and that's just the way it's going to be. You can't be the Michigan Wolverines and just say, hey, I'm going to run right into Georgia. That's what we do. If we can't win, we can't win. That's not how it works here in the NFL. You need to be multidimensional, be able to change on the fly, be able to do different type things. And I think Green Bay is a team that can do that. But then again, so is San Francisco. I think San Francisco, with Jimmy G, he's been playing pretty decent here recently. But Deebo Samuel has been just such a juggernaut lately that I think he's the guy they're going to have to focus on. If they can stop Deebo Samuel, I think the Packers should have a pretty good shot here at beating the 49ers pretty good. So for me, Chris, it's all about, what are you going to stop with the Packers? You stop Devontae Adams, then what? I mean, you're going to get an Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon show. I mean, I think, where the 49ers necessarily – I mean, if I told you you're going to bet on Jimmy G or Aaron Rodgers, I don't think anybody's going to side with Jimmy G. But we'll see here. But I think Aaron Rodgers is focused. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to win the Super Bowl. I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to get to the Super Bowl. I actually think it's going to be Green Bay and Buffalo at this point here in the Super Bowl. But, yeah, we'll see, especially if it's cold. I mean, you just asked the 49ers who played late to go, who played, this last weekend. Now they got to travel all the way across the country, and now they're going to have to play in that freezing cold. So that is definitely going to be a shock to that system, that's for sure. I wouldn't want to play in Green Bay. It's too damn cold. You wouldn't even want to go outside and watch that game in Green Bay, Chris. I can tell you that.
I would. I would. You kidding me?
You'd go? No, I wouldn't. No,
I mean, I'm growing all this hair. It'll help keep me warm under here. There it is. I got my Pauly wings. Spencer's been waiting to throw that up. They're gray and everything, Scott. When you live with all women, you know the feeling. The grays tend to come on at like 3 times the speed of anyone else's gray. So you got to give me a little bit of credit here dealing with all these females in this house. But yeah, I mean, letting the hair go. We're doing the COVID thing. So let's see what happens with it. Like my boy Pauly. So I'm a pessimistic Green Bay fan. So I try to leave that out of the analysis here on the show. I do think we win. I think we get a very close game. And we saw these two teams play a hell of a game earlier in the season. Now, that one was out in San Francisco, Scott. If you remember, it was back, I think it was like week 2 or week 3. It was a game Aaron Rodgers, no timeouts, walks right down the field, and we kick a field goal, end up winning that game 30-28. But I think San Francisco's got what it takes to come in here and compete. Looks like temperatures in the mid-teens, 15 or so. So, not terrible. The initial reports were going to be negative. So a team that can play defense, that can run the ball, that can, you got Deebo Samuel as a weapon, like you mentioned. I think they're live in any playoff game they're going to go to. They're not as dependent on Jimmy G unless they have to be. Green Bay gets out to a lead. You're depending on this guy to make some big throws. I think that's obviously not the game plan. That's where things will go south for this team. But if they can keep things close, they can compete, they can get that ground game going. I think their defense is good enough to slow this Green Bay offense down. Let's be honest. This is not the Green Bay offense that was scoring 40 points a game like we saw a few weeks ago. If you can do your best to contain Devontae Adams and the running game, I think you have a chance. So bottom line, I like the Niners here. I think the spread actually drops a little bit, Scott. I think we see this one settle in probably closer to 4.5. So I don't mind getting on this a little bit early. I don't disagree with you. I think Green Bay ends up winning this game. I hope they win this game, of course. But I don't mind taking the points here. Yeah, there he is with his toe. So this guy's always got something going on. So, in the cold, dealing with a toe injury, not the greatest either. Point being, Green Bay wins. I think 5.5 is too high, though. So I don't mind grabbing this early.
I mean, if you look at the Green Bay game log here, Chris, the last 3 out of 4, they didn't cover. They didn't cover against Baltimore, Cleveland, and we obviously know that they lost to the Lions. I mean, the Lions broke the Cardinals. I mean, hopefully they didn't break your Packers with that win. So everybody that the Lions have a notch against so far that made the playoffs is out, but your Packers. So I don't know if they'll be able to survive that ding in the Lions in your armor there. But yeah, hopefully the Lions didn't break them. I'd like to see Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that would be one hell of a Super Bowl. I mean, I don't want to see Jimmy G in the Super Bowl. Who wants to see Jimmy G in the Super Bowl? I sure don't.
Nobody.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's gonna have to be stat. I mean, of the 4 quarterbacks left in the NFC, I mean, nobody's gonna want to see him. I mean, the other 3, sure, but yeah, I think this game is going to be interesting though, from a standpoint of just watching football. I mean, the 49ers are their strength is the Packers' weaknesses. So let's just see how this one plays out, and hopefully you'll be smiling on Sunday there, buddy.
I hope so. And we talked about, you brought up that point about Arizona losing to the Lions, and we talked about that was going to sting and stay with them, and we saw that. So I hope that you're not right about this Lions thing, but a couple trends that certainly are in Green Bay's favor. 8-2 against the number over their last 10 at home. So you mentioned some of the struggles down the stretch. They have certainly taken care of business at Lambeau. We know that. 6-3, their last 10 as favorites against the 49ers. So a couple trends in their favor, but again, I favor San Francisco. While we're here, and you bring up Jimmy G, kind of spawned something in my head. What would be the worst Super Bowl of the teams remaining? As an NFL executive, to me, it would have to be, just looking at the quarterbacks, I damn sure don't want my Super Bowl being Jimmy Garoppolo against Ryan Tannehill. Can you come up with anything worse than that? I mean, the rest of the quarterbacks, I think they'd be happy with. Joe Burrow as a young face of the league. Obviously, a Mahomes, something like that. Spencer's putting the odds up, so we'll talk about this here as well, kind of tie this in to what we're talking about here. But is there a worse matchup than Jimmy G against Ryan Tannehill? I don't think there is here, Scott.
No, there's definitely not a worse matchup in that. I mean, that would not be one that the NFL execs would want, especially Fox, if that's where the Super Bowl resides this year as far as a network. But yeah, to me, Chris, you know damn well what they're praying for, and that is I think they're praying for either an Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, or I think it's Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen is what they want. I think they want a Buffalo Super Bowl. I mean, to me, Mahomes, I don't think the Chiefs are quite as good as they have been before. I mean, sure, if they get Mahomes, I don't think they'd obviously complain. Rodgers, Mahomes, I think would be interesting. Stafford, Mahomes, Brady, Mahomes, we saw last year. But yeah, for me, I'd love to see Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills here get to the Super Bowl.
I think the Bills have the goods to get there. We've talked about them quite a bit throughout this season, so we'll get to them here momentarily. But I think honestly, you're kind of the Chiefs giving them a little bit of shade here. I think the NFL will be perfectly fine with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. The bottom line, they want as much star power in this game as possible. So, obviously a rematch would be anything with Tom Brady is going to sell. Anything with Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, maybe not on that level as star-studded wise, but I think he's headed there. So I think they'd be okay with that. Plus the story, the Bills, you could start telling, all the stories of redemption, them losing 4 Super Bowls in a row. They're back. I just think outside of the Titans and even the 49ers, you could tie some history in, I guess. But I think those 2 teams are the ones that they'd probably be like, we were hoping for something else. But, that's why they play the games. So we'll see how these games play out. Let's go to Sunday, Scott. So we got 2 on Saturday. 2 on Sunday. So this one will kick off 3 o'clock here locally. The Rams in Tampa Bay, like we talked about. It opened Tampa -2.5. It's gone to Tampa -3. At most places I'm seeing totals kind of held steady at 48.5. So like I said, Scott, I think the Rams are good enough to go in here and win. Tampa Bay has beaten teams they're supposed to beat, but let's be honest, they're down a lot of weapons. When you're throwing to Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronk, it's a lot easier than when you're down to just Evans, just Gronk, and then a bunch of guys. We don't know if Leonard Fournette is going to be back. I would be assuming that he's back in the lineup this week, but I think the Rams have what it takes on offense. We've seen the incredible story of Cam Akers returning to that lineup and looking like the Cam Akers of old. I don't think anybody gave this guy a shot to be back in the lineup. Here he is. They have the offense. They have the defense. Is Stafford the wild card here, Scott? Do you worry about, if you're betting on the Rams, is he what you're worried about?
Yeah, league leading 17 interceptions is definitely concerning. I mean, for sure. But I think with Cam Akers' emergence last night, I mean, he looked really good. I actually played him in a lot of showdowns. He was really cheap. And I mean, he was only 18% owned in that millionaire over there on FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, he looked really good. I mean, now they got 2 running backs over there that they could rely on, obviously with Akers and Sony Michel. So that definitely helps the Rams. We'll see though if Tampa is able to get the pressure on Stafford. But how about old Nakama Sue? I can't even say his damn first name. How about Sue going to be chasing after his boy Stafford all over the place? So I'll be kind of looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, this game here is definitely interesting. I think Tampa, if they were full strength with Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown, I think this one would be a pretty easy decision for me. But at this point, I'm still not decided on this one. I think this one will be a good game here. I mean, what kind of cracks me up is they play on Monday night, Chris, and then they got to go on Sunday and then play at the early game on Sunday. Like, why wouldn't they have them play the later game? I mean, they literally had, 30, 35 hours of extra time than Tampa here. So kind of shitty job of scheduling by the NFL. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this one here is the game I think that I'm going to be glued to the most. Obviously, being a Stafford slappy, I do like Matt Stafford. And also my favorite player at this point, too, is Tom Brady. I mean, I think Brady's the GOAT, and we'll have to see. But Stafford, this is where you earn your stripes, buddy. This is where you get all them monkeys off your back if you beat Tom Brady. And I'm sure half the country, more than half the country, probably rooting for the Rams because I'm sure everybody's probably said it. Man, they're tired of Tom Brady being in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, Tom Brady is – we talked about quarterbacks making good decisions. He is the epitome of that. That guy makes every decision, to me, the correct decision. I mean, the guy is he's just a field general. So I'll be interested in this one here. I think this one here has a chance to actually be lower scoring than everybody thinks, especially if Fournette's in there. I think this game could be pretty low scoring, actually. Both defenses are pretty good.
Yeah, you got Stafford winning his first playoff game. Meanwhile, Tom Brady playing in his 47th, I think it is, with 35 playoff wins. So this one will be interesting. I tend to lean an under on this one as well. I think both of these defenses are pretty solid that can hold the other offense down, but we know both these offenses can be electric as well. So a great matchup here. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. And I do think if you get good Stafford, the Rams have a very much a shot to win this game. So if you get the guy turning the ball over, obviously, that's going to be an issue here. Money line looks like about plus 130 here on the Rams. I don't hate that. I think Tampa Bay a little bit overrated right now without those wide receivers. I think you're going to start to see that come into play here. I like the Rams here in this one early on. All right, let's finish up. Buffalo and Kansas City, probably the game of the week here, Scott. I mean, this one has all the makings of a nice little the Sunday night hammer, as we love to call it. So this one started out, let's see, Kansas City minus 2.5. This has moved to -2 at the majority of books. This total has ticked up as well. Started 54.5. We're up to 55 at some places. So Vegas expecting a shootout here with good reason. We know both these teams can light the scoreboard up. We saw Buffalo with an historic performance in that last game. 7 drives, 7 touchdowns, something we have not seen ever in the history of the NFL playoffs. The Chiefs getting back on track, looking like the team we thought they would be here. Who wins this one? Buffalo's gone into Kansas City and won before. I believe it was earlier this year. I'm going to look at the first matchup here, but I think the Bills can go do it again here, Scott.
I'm all over the Bills, Chris. I like the Bills. Every time I go on that FanDuel Sportsbook app, I'm going to hit the Buffalo Bills and just keep betting on it in different ways. I think the Bills are going to beat up on the Chiefs here. I do not think the Chiefs are as good as everybody else thinks they are at this point. I just think Buffalo, that defense, that cover defense they have, them safeties are incredible. I was listening to a little bit of some stuff today and heard Orlovsky talking about how good that back end of that Buffalo defense is. And I think, Kansas City has obviously struggled a little bit here recently with some of the better offenses. You just kind of look at, they gave up 21 to Pittsburgh. They gave up 24 to Denver. They gave up 30 to Cincinnati. They gave up 28 to the Chargers. Now you're going to face these Bills here. I think the Bills, Josh Allen, you talk about not being one-dimensional. That is the Buffalo Bills, especially with how good Singletary's been playing. And we saw them take the leash off a little bit of Josh Allen, letting him run around. That first game last week, I think it was at the first play, ripped one off for 26 yards or something like that. I just think here that the Chiefs are going to have to score and keep on scoring. I think the Bills actually, to me, are in a great spot here to get this victory. I'm all over the money line, Chris. I like the 2. I like the 2.5. I was kind of hoping maybe to get up to 3, but it's going the other way here. I was hoping that maybe everybody be on the Chiefs, but I kind of was laughing about these Chiefs here and, Patrick Mahomes and his brother over there with TikToks and all that other crap. And I'd love nothing else to see one day than Patrick Mahomes zip a liner over at his brother while he's doing a TikTok and beat him right in the back of the dome. That would just be fabulous.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be upset about that one for sure. So money line looks like Buffalo plus 115 is the highest I can find. So, would you rather the 115 or would you rather just have the couple points here? We know anything under 3, generally, it doesn't tend to do much of a difference. Most games, if they're going to be close, they're going to come down to that field goal. So I think I'm with you. Probably take the plus odds there with the 115. This is definitely a rematch like I thought. They did play earlier back in October, and Buffalo went into Kansas City, won that game 38-20. These two teams also met last season, was at the AFC Championship. Kansas City ended up winning that one 38-24 here in Arrowhead. So I'm excited for this, Scott. Obviously, we're going to break this one down. Moving forward, tomorrow we'll get into more of the DFS plays and things like that. See if the spread and total has moved, but this thing could keep moving in favor of Buffalo. So, maybe getting that plus 115 now is a little bit better price than you'll get as we get closer to Sunday. Wouldn't shock me to see this one be like 1.5 or 1 at that point. So I like that money line call. I'm with you on that one. So anything else, kind of the initial 10,000 foot view, as we love to say, on any of these 4 games here this weekend?
Actually, while we were talking, Chris, I went over to the FanDuel Sportsbook and hit an alternate odds spreads here. And you can get the Bills minus 6.5 at plus 230, Chris. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of think maybe they beat them by a touchdown. If you want to go up to 9.5, it's at plus 340. So you never know. I think that that'd be a decent way of getting a little bit different on your bets.
All right, let's talk some Michigan hoops here, Scott. We want to talk some local sports. I know that game is going to tip off here shortly. Michigan and Maryland here in the Big Ten. 6.5. That one's moved up to 7 here in favor of Michigan. Total around 136 and a half here in this game. So, Scott, we know the story. Michigan has been struggling. 7-7 on the year, just 4-10 so far against the number, but we can't say much better here for Maryland. I mean, they're 9-8. They've also struggled against the number, 5-11 here against the spread. So let's get some quick thoughts here. So people looking to bet on this game before it tips off here momentarily. Thoughts here. Do the Wolverines get things going here tonight against the Terrapins?
Well, Chris, a couple months ago, I mean, let's rewind. Michigan was ranked number 4. Maryland was ranked number 20. And unfortunately, those days are long behind us here as both teams have obviously struggled mightily. Michigan has lost 3 in a row. Maryland's lost his last 4 out of 5. But if you recall last year, Chris, this was a heated matchup in the Big Ten tournament. This is a game here that Mark Turgeon, the coach of Maryland, basically said that Juwan Howard threatened to kill him, if you don't remember that. So I got a feeling here that this game here could get pretty chippy today, but I'll be interested to see the handshake there between these two coaches here. I mean, you don't go out and start saying stuff like that in the media, and then it be all sunshine and rainbows here. But for me, I think this game here, Michigan should be able to control this game here. I do like Michigan in this spot. I mean, it's too bad here with all these COVID issues that they had. A lot of these guys have not been practicing. Juwan has said he's trying to limit their minutes. He doesn't feel comfortable playing Dickinson and some of these guys here as much as he would want just because of the lack of practice. But, yeah, Chris, I'm going to be interested to see how these two coaches, when they look eye to eye, what kind of look they give each other because, Juwan wants to smack the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime there's a little extra drama, it makes it fun. That's the beauty of sports. I mean, there's so many different angles to it, but anytime we get something like that on top, I always call it the cherry on top, the little narrative. I do like Michigan here tonight as well. I don't mind an overplay either. So maybe even a little two-teamer there. Both of these teams, average right around 70 points a game. I don't see either defense really slowing the other one down. So I don't hate the parlay of those two, Scott. I prefer Michigan here minus the 7. I think it's a matter of time before they get this thing going. They brought in some talented pieces. You mentioned trying to deal through some of these injuries, COVID. A lot of times it's just chemistry and who works well together. I think that's the main struggle with Michigan right now. So this team is too talented to be this bad. I can't say the same with Maryland. I just think there's a talent discrepancy here. I like Michigan minus the 7 here tonight against the Maryland Terrapins. So any other thoughts on this one, Scott? Just 2 games in the NBA. We'll get to that momentarily. I know that's tipping off here shortly as well. But any final thoughts here locally here, Michigan and Maryland?
Yeah, like I said, I'll just be looking forward to see, the little extras going on in that game for sure. I mean, man, if you go back and check out some of the tape, I was kind of looking into it today, and Juwan was heated. I mean, this guy was really upset. He was trying to get after him. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out today.
All right, let's talk some NBA. And hey, we get another local team on the docket here tonight in the NBA. Detroit back at it here. 2 games on the docket for tonight. So not a ton to talk about here, Scott, but Pistons and Warriors. Obviously a big spread here. 15 points. I know you guys talked about the Cade Cunningham situation the other day. Getting tossed from that game seemed a little extreme after one hell of a dunk. I mean, that was impressive here. But let's break this one down. We'll look at the overall slate here with the other game. Again, not a ton to talk about here, but 15 points on the spread. Is that something you want to look at? Are you seeing any props or anything here in this game? That total seems a little bit low for 216. We know no Draymond Green for Golden State. We know Jeremy Grant going to miss here once again for Detroit. Kelly Olynyk also remains on the shelf. Gary Payton questionable here for the Warriors. So those are your injuries, Scott. What are we doing here with the local squad here, the Stones and the Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet against Steph Curry, especially with our Pistons here. I just don't think the Pistons have the horses at this point. You know, obviously they got little Klay Thompson back. I don't know if he's going to give it a run today or not, but obviously no Draymond helps out quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, just looking at these two teams here, the over is hit in the last 4 out of 5 meetings out there in Golden State. But I will say one thing: the Warriors, playing on 1 day's rest, are 0-5 against the spread so far this year. So I do think that is something to pay attention to. I know, you know, these NBA teams do like their rest. So, you know, that's one thing I've been following, Chris. If the Pistons are on a second half of back-to-back, I'm always betting against the Pistons. They've been absolutely horrible in that situation so far this year. And the Warriors haven't been much better either. But, yeah, I think this one here, be a little late for me to stay up on this one here at 10 o'clock game. But so far, 60% of the money is coming in on Golden State. They're 18-3 at home, 31-12 overall. Pistons just 10-32, 3-18 on the road, and 9-12 against the spread on the road here recently. But Chris, I can't bet against Steph Curry. I just can't do it. I can't do it. It's too frustrating when he starts nailing half quarters and shit. You know how frustrating that is when you bet against him. And this dude's pulling up from half court, draining triples like he's in the backyard. I can't stomach that.
I'm about to make you real upset then, because I'm looking at some of these Steph Curry props, and you know, you always tell yourself a story when you're building DFS lineups, when you're looking at some of these props. And Scott, my story is: can Detroit hang in this game? Does Steph Curry have to play 4 quarters in this game? I don't know that happens here. So sure, he can obviously light it up in a half, in 3 quarters. But as far as a bet that I'm liking, digging a little bit deeper here, I kind of like some of the unders on Steph Curry here in this game. You know, so the points, 25.5. We do have Klay Thompson back in that lineup. So even if it stays competitive, you have another scorer there. It's not like Draymond puts any points on the board. So I'm not worried about him being out. Like, that's going to equal more shots for Steph Curry. So you just said it, Scott, but the juice is actually on the under here in the FanDuel Sportsbook as well. So FanDuel seems to kind of be with me here. So 25.5. I'm going to go under on Steph Curry points here to give you a little extra here in this Pistons-Warriors game. Minus 122, so a little bit of juice. Never fun having an under on a guy like Steph Curry, but thoughts on that one for tonight?
I mean, I like your logic. I mean, we see it happen all the time in NBA, especially DFS. I mean, that is something you got to try to avoid, are those blowouts, because, you know, you get maybe a half of a third quarter, maybe even not even a fourth quarter. So, yeah, if you're telling me probably only going to get, 2.5, 3 quarters of Steph Curry, sure, I could see that under being in play today. But the Pistons do keep it close. You know, obviously Curry's going to be the main part of that offense here today, but can Cade Cunningham and the boys keep up with Steph Curry? If they do get out by 20, 25 some points here in the third, fourth quarter, yeah, I could totally see Steph Curry sitting over on the bench and not even getting involved in the game. But definitely can see, I like that logic. I mean, that is something you always got to be concerned about, like we mentioned, especially in the NBA. We've seen it time and time again where, you know, your guy comes out, he jumps out, he scores. I mean, he could score 20 points in the first half, Chris, and not even get to 25.5 by sitting out most of the second half. So, yeah, if your story is you think the Warriors are going to smash the Pistons, you could always bet on the Golden State minus the 15, or you can bet on the under and the prop. I don't mind either one, actually.
All right, let's take a look at some of the local guys here. We got to have some Pistons action here, Scott. They don't want to hear us talk only about Golden State. So I always looking at these points, rebounds, and assists. So let's look at Cade. 26.5 total points, rebounds, and assists here. Juice is about even on both sides. Any strong leans on that one? We know he has triple-double upside every time he takes the floor. That's why I love his specifically looking at some of these guys don't do enough in the other categories. You know, you want to stick mostly to the points, points and rebounds. So just kind of looking at game logs, seeing what guys do. But we know Cade can get you the double digits in all three of those categories here. But a tough matchup here as well. I'd expect him to see some Klay Thompson, who is even coming off an injury, a very good defender. 26.5 over, under, or you staying away from it?
Cade's been playing well his last 4 games. He's been averaging 19 points. He's been shooting 51.7% shooting in his last 4 games. Obviously, he 25 minutes. He had 21 points there against the Suns before he got bounced out. But for me, man, he's been outstanding his last few games here. So I do not mind Cade Cunningham. He's finally really carving out his role. As we mentioned when we bet on him to win Rookie of the Year, we didn't feel as if there was anybody that really was going to be over demanding in the usage, and that eventually this would be Cade's team. They're going to rely on Cade. We're starting to see it. Cade is stepping up. He is taking that role of the team leader here, which is why I think the Pistons are thinking about where they got to trade a guy like Jeremiah Grant if they can get something decent. But yeah, Chris, I think the Pistons are going to stay in this game. Cade Cunningham definitely needs to get over that number.
All right, one other number I noticed here, and there's some juice on it. So, some people don't like to pay the juice, but let's look at his assists, Scott. 4.5 here in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, over that, minus 144. Under, you do get plus 118. But just looking at some of the game logs here, he didn't hit it in that last game. Only played 24 minutes, but 5 assists against Toronto. Missed it against Chicago with 3. But before that, 8 against Utah, 5 against Orlando, 6, 7, 7. So we've talked about how he's got the ball in his hands that much more. So this could be an alternative. If you don't feel as strongly about the points, rebounds, and assists, what do you think on this 4.5? I kind of like it. I don't like the juice at 144, but I think that when you see the juice that high, it's because you're getting a good number on that. The number probably should be 5, and you'd be getting closer to even odds here. But I kind of like this over 4.5 on his assists here.
Yeah, I think if you just read me those game logs and you would ask me what I think the over-under would be, I probably would have guessed 5.5. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think we are getting a little bit of a discount there. I generally don't like to take props, when you're starting getting around those minus 140 odds. I like to stay around minus 120, minus 125, generally tops. But, yeah, I think you might be getting a little discount here. It probably should be, as you mentioned, 5.5. So I do not mind that at all, really. But if you wanted to combine, like you mentioned, combine the points, rebounds, and assists, maybe get a few extra points that covers for those assists. But yeah, I like where you're going there with that.
All right, the other game here on the schedule tonight, the early game, Minnesota and the New York Knicks. So as far as injuries there, still waiting on word on Kemba Walker. They're not sure if he's going to play or not. Derrick Rose, remains out. Here for the New York Knicks. Nerlens Noel will also miss Cam Reddish, who they recently acquired from the Atlanta Hawks, pairing him back up with his college teammate RJ Barrett. They're back to their Duke days. He will miss here as well. So let's kind of tie this game back in, Scott. Again, 2 games in DFS. I tend to not go crazy here. It's always fun to build lineups. The main way is you want to try to be different. So, you either fade some of the very, very highly owned players, which we know are going to be guys like Steph Curry, RJ Barrett, who I just mentioned. Beverly is going to be cheap, Alec Burks. So you can do that, or you leave a bunch of salary on the table. Most people want to spend all of their money. So those are the 2 easy ways. There's different ways to get different, but either of those standing out, leave money on the table, fade some of these guys. And then what else are you doing here on this little 2-gamer in the NBA?
Yeah, I love leaving money on the table, in situations like that. And most people won't do that. And only generally, you get more seasoned DFS players that will, do stuff like that. I don't mind leaving 1,000, 2,000, sometimes even 3,000 on the table if it works. Nothing worse, Chris, when you're making your lineup. You don't really pay attention to salary, and then you say, "Oh, I got 1,500. I got $2,000 left. Oh, I can bump this guy up to this guy." And it always bites me in the ass.
Yeah, and on a main slate, that's something you always want to look at. If you got 10 games on the docket and you got $1,500 left in your lineup, there's probably some swaps that you can make that make sense. But never forget, the more expensive guy is not always the better play. And I think I myself get caught up. Like you said, you're looking at it, you're like, well, I could spend up to this guy. But how many times have we seen the winning lineup be a simple replacement of the expensive guy? Somebody saved a bunch of money, took a different guy that went off at lower ownership. That ends up winning the tournament. So it can be tough. Like you said, a newer player, they want to spend all that money. Johnny Public, they want to get as close to zeroed out as you can. It takes some discipline, but that is one of the best ways to give yourself a shot at some of these tournaments here on these smaller slates. Now, if you want to split the winnings with 1,000 other people, have at it. Build the chalky lineup. I want to go into it and give myself a shot at getting different. So highlight a couple of the plays you're looking at here for tonight. We'll get some best bets and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, with all the Warriors tonight, Looney might be a guy you might want to look at, and some of these Knicks. But I mean, to me, look at the over/unders in these games. I mean, you got 215 in the one, you got 218. They're really not too far off, but Chris, I mean, I always like to bet on the unders with these Knicks here. So I think this one here is a spot that, I might just load up on some Pistons if that's the case. I think Cade Cunningham's the guy you're going to want to play tonight. So for me, I'd be looking at Cade Cunningham, maybe even an Otto Porter you could use tonight. Maybe a little Killian Hayes is somebody that you could look at, but and obviously Klay Thompson as well. But yeah, for me, Chris, I'll probably sit out this 2-gamer. I don't really think that I'm going to mix it up in there tonight. I think I'll just sit this one out. There ain't too many days, Chris, that I don't play DFS, but I think this one is probably going to be one of them.
Yeah, I'll throw a couple lineups. So the way I'm going to get different, RJ Barrett's been playing incredible. I'm a huge RJ Barrett fan. When COVID hit, card collecting kind of became of interest again. He was one of the guys I went out and targeted. So a bunch of RJ Barrett, rookie cards and autographs, things like that. So obviously for my own bags, I want to see him do well. But as far as tonight, he is playing very well, back in that rotation. But I think he's going to be so popular on this slate. So even grabbing some of those other Knicks, and we mentioned, the Alec Burks of the world, guys like that, maybe an Emmanuel Quickley could see some more run here in this game. Also on the other side, I think people are going to want to pay up for Julius Randle on the Knicks. I think people are going to want to pay up for Steph Curry. So Karl Anthony Towns maybe go a little bit under-owned here in this slate. People looking to spend some money or save some money at center position. So that could be a way to get different. And then some of those fringe Warriors, like you mentioned, Kevon Looney, it's not exciting for sure, but without Draymond, without Iguodala potentially, maybe he plays a few more minutes here tonight with some of the bigs the Pistons will throw out there. So that's another guy I think can help make you a little bit different here tonight. So not much going on DFS-wise. Should have a bigger slate of games tomorrow to break down. But, Scott, we still got plenty of stuff to bet on. So we've talked about the NFL. We'll continue to look at that tomorrow. But for tonight, we got Michigan, we got the Pistons, and we got best bets. What do you got? Give the people some winners here for Tuesday night.
Yeah, so for best bets tonight, I am going to take the under in that Knicks game, and then I'm also going to take the Michigan Wolverines. And Chris, you mentioned about card collecting today. I had something kind of cool come in the mail today. I was actually showing Spencer before the show started. You talk about loading up on certain guys. Well, how about when you get a Riley Green 1/100 rookie autograph card today? So it's like, I'm starting to keep it in the starting to pile up on those here, as well as if I could right now, Chris, I'd bet on Riley Green to win the Rookie of the Year right now. I think Riley Green is going to be a special talent for the Tigers. And you talk about loading up on the cards. I've been buying these Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson cards because I think the future is bright for these Tigers. So, yeah, when you said that, it made me smile because I thought, yep, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm loading up on me some Riley Greens and then some Spencer Torkelsons, that's for sure.
Nice. We got to get you into the NFTs as well. Some digital cards. There's some tops out there. There's Candy at MLB. Check that out as well. Just kind of launched their marketplace the other day. But Best bets here for tonight before we get into an NFT wormhole. Let's give some more winners. I'm going with Michigan here as well. I like them minus the 7. If you can find a 6.5, obviously that's the way to go. So grab that while you can. If that game's already started, don't worry. We got some other games for you here. I'm going to go with some player props here in this Detroit and Golden State game. Under 25.5 for Steph Curry. I'm going to go over 4.5 assists for Cade Cunningham. And Scott, I like the under in that game. So it kind of plays with my story on Steph. The game's kind of ugly, gets out of hand. I'm going to go under 219 total in that one. So 4 best bets here for me. A couple for you as well on a smaller slate. So best of luck if you guys tail those bets. Best of luck with your bets as well. Appreciate you for watching the show. Scott, final thoughts for the people here Tuesday night. What do you got?
Yeah, we always appreciate you guys checking us out. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for us. We really appreciate that. And we always like the interaction on Twitter or wherever else that you find us, either in the chat at YouTube or whatever else. But get on in there, and we'll be sure we do our best to answer any questions, or, hey, we poke a little fun at each other, do whatever else. But always appreciate the interaction.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening, as always. We love interacting with you guys. So anything you want to see us do more of, less of, please feel free to reach out. Both our Twitter handles on the screen. DMs are always open. Make sure you're following us at Woodward Bets on Twitter. Follow the network at Woodward Sports. Big thank you to new sponsor of the show, Better Rate Mortgage. Make sure you guys are heading over there for all of your mortgage needs. So for Scott, for our boy Spencer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you again for watching. Best of luck with the betting tonight. Enjoy that Michigan game. Enjoy that Pistons game. We'll be back tomorrow, 6 o'clock, to break everything down. Thank you again for listening, and we're out.